tonight. Remembering this is Salam Radio 106.2 FM. We're on Facebook Live, YouTube Live and online at salamradio.co.uk. Community Matters is here to ask questions that matter to our community life. Last week we talked about remembrance and we met Sarah Wilson from Vivacity to learn about the fantastic exhibition at the museum in Priestgate called Peterborough Commemorates, with stories and pictures from the First World War. Our first guest tonight, I'm delighted to welcome, is Faith Boys from PCVS, the Peterborough Council for Voluntary Services. Welcome, Faith.
Thank you, Adrian. Good to be here.
Faith has worked at PCVS for 9 years, covering a variety of roles from supporting individuals with learning disabilities to managing reception and even in the direct payment support service. So I'd like to come on to these areas you've particularly specialised in, but first of all, PCVS, Peterborough Council for Voluntary Service, let's just call it PCVS from now on, is a registered charity, and your Facebook page says it was set up in 1980 as an umbrella and network organisation to the voluntary sector in Peterborough. PCVS promotes and develops the effectiveness of voluntary action. That seems a very wide brief. How do you do that?
So PCVS, as you say, has been in operation for many years and really is there to be receptive to the community, be a voice for the community. And within PCVS we have various projects that support that community, the local community. We are passionate about bringing funding into Peterborough and supporting the small organisations as well as the bigger ones to provide support to individuals and groups in many different ways. And just adapt to, say, we have new projects coming in all the time that cover different areas, such as employability and youth and well-being, so lots of different areas covered.
I like the idea that you are able to perhaps club together and the economy of scale of being able to get grants from the big lottery and other grant-making bodies that perhaps individual charities in Peterborough wouldn't be able to achieve.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what we do, because we can then filter it down to the small groups who are doing such a valuable job, but may not have access directly to that funding, or they've got their own expertise. So I won't say specifically expertise, but we may have those contacts or can direct them to the contacts that they need to be able to access the funding that they need to carry on their good work.
So there's a sort of a partnership between PCVS and individual charities and other voluntary bodies and organisations. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's where it gets its strength, because it is part of the community and it's about sharing and sort of all working together, to get to the end result. So we have, while we support Peterborough, we're anxious to sort of work to bring funding into the area, but we work across wider regions as well with Peterborough Plus, which sits within PCVS, and other sort of, but down to sort of smaller groups, and we have that information to share with other people. So because we have the directory with many sort of community organisations of different sizes, we can share that information with individuals and hopefully enhance their lives, really.
Now in your own area of work, one of your projects has been supporting individuals with learning disabilities to live independently in their own homes, and that must be a wonderful feeling of affirmation for them to enable them to be able to do that. Can you tell us more about that? Yeah,
I mean, it's quite funny that I've been at PCVS for 9 years, but I actually joined, was contracted for 9 months, and I'm still there in different remits. So I say it was a short-term project, and it was about individuals that just need that extra little bit of support, someone they could turn to, or just help them with things like on a day-to-day basis, paying bills, making sure they agree, they kept up their tenancy agreements with gardening, and just generally somebody there to talk to sometimes and ask questions. And as I say, I've been there ever since in different guises. And I just love that sort of being there for the community, really.
So that was the first project you did. That was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Are we still helping and assisting people to live independently?
We do. I mean, the project I'm in at the moment is the Direct Payment Support Service, which supports individuals that receive funding from the council and social services when they've been assessed as having a care need that's eligible, and they are then offered to have funding directly as a direct payment that they can then have choice and control about who provides that support for them.
Do you know, I never knew that you could do that. I just thought that adult social services had to come and provide people that you needed to help you at home.
Yeah, they still have what we call commissioned care, so they still have that function and that role to play. But some individuals, they want something different, so it is about that choice. Some people will go with the commissioned service, some have the direct payment and use an agency. We also now have the PA register, so as in support work carer register, so that if individuals want to choose their own support but don't have somebody in mind to do it, they can come to us and we can look on the register and see who would be suitable to support them. So
sounds exciting. A bit like matchmaking.
Yeah, we say that on a daily basis, because while there's certain skill sets that are required by some individuals for their support, a big part of it, as with life in general, is that connection with somebody. You can have all the certificates if you like, but if you don't actually get on with that person in such a intimate way, because you're one-to-one supporting somebody, then it doesn't always work. You can learn the skills, but you can't always build that connection. So it's a very it gives me a lot of sense of achievement when it works, to find that support, because I know how important that is, whether it's somebody to take you shopping, whether it's somebody to assist you to go to your hobbies, or whether it's really full-on 24/7 intimate care. That it's so important to have that right person and feel comfortable with the people that are looking after you.
I'm becoming more attracted to this scheme. I know a number of people who've received agency care, and whilst the contact time and the care has been of good quality, it's a different person. They might not know their way around the house so well, and there isn't that opportunity to build a rapport and the relationship between the carer and the people in need.
No, and that's it. It is, as I say, about choice and control. Some people are happy to have an agency that works for them. Some people have somebody that they already know supporting them and do it in a more formal way, and some people don't have those connections, so they this is just another route. But also in supporting those individuals, I say I've dipped in and out of the direct payment support and done other projects over the years, but always come back to that feeling that it's a nice sort of way to do a person-centred sort of support, because say, going back to being within PCVS, we have other areas that we can direct people as well as. It's not just about one area of finding somebody a carer. We have other projects that they can dip into, whether it's volunteering or some we know about other things out there.
Surely, yes.
So.
I'm still thinking, though, that if a family has a family member that is in need of some sort of care support, I wonder, would they automatically be told about the direct payment scheme, and that they can have the choice to ask for that?
And initially, if they feel they need support, then it would go through Peterborough City Council through their contact number, which is the Peterborough 747474, and then they would go through an assessment process. If they're assessed as being eligible for support, then direct payments should be the option that they're offered. as well as a commission. So they've got so they know about those choices.
So immediately up front, the offer is made. Would you like commission support, or would you like direct payments?
Yeah, I mean, because direct payments offers more choice and control. That's the way that that they would like things to be, because say the individuals can still choose an agency if they so choose, but they still have more control over that agency. If they're holding the funding, then they feel more in control of it. It's not somebody sending in a carer 3 times a day that you just have to put up with coming as and when. You can go back and have some say in what's happening to you.
And is there some sort of check and control, because money is paid directly to somebody, that they're using it in the way it's meant to be used? Yeah,
I mean, we support individuals once they get the funding. We don't control what funding they get, but once they get the funding, we know about them. We give them a call and say that we're there to support them. They do have to do a financial audit quarterly, and that goes back to the council just to show how they're using the funding. We offer payroll service to the individuals, so that if they employ somebody, they everything that side of it's taken care of for them. And if they really don't want to hold the funding direct themselves, we also have a managed service where we hold the funding, and we do basically the backroom admin, all the admin stuff, but they still have the choice over who they have.
Yeah. I know one gentleman whose brother was in need of full-time care, and he gave up other aspects of his working life in order to become his brother's carer. Would he be eligible for that?
With regards to family supporting family, it's on an individual basis. I mean, direct payments is on an individual basis, and it's as with all of us, we have needs and wants. So each assessment is individual. If somebody lives in the same house as an individual, it tends not to be funded because it's seen as informal, natural family support. But if they don't live within the family and that's deemed to be the best thing for that individual, it's not about what's best for the family member who wants to do the support. It's about what's best for the individual that needs support. So if it's deemed that that's the right person or the best person to do the job, there's an argument there to say, well, I know it's family, but this is over and above natural support. So they would expect some element of natural support to be.
So it could be used in that way.
It can be, but it's on an individual basis as to whether that's So I wouldn't give up your job and think you can go and do caring. It all needs to go through the due and proper processes before you think.
Now the other side of the matchmaking is the assistants, the carers that you can go and acquire, and you keep a personal assistant register for that. Yeah,
I manage the personal assistant register, so we have people that would like to do care and support who can apply to be on the register, and we do some preliminary checks and take up references, etc., and then once they've been approved they go on the register. The register is accessible to the public. It's on the Peterborough City Council Peterborough Information Network website, so they can access it directly. It's open to anybody, self-funders, as well as people that get a direct payment. But it was initially really set up for when the question came, well, you've given me this funding, who do I get to do the support? So that's where it initially stemmed from. And we're always open to people wanting to do that, do support work. You don't have to have experience, don't have to have the qualifications. That's down to what the job for each individual entails. So they may need specialist skills, but they may not. It may be that the 2 examples I use around what a PA will do from 2 extremes is maybe we had a young man who wanted support to go and watch Posh on a Saturday for a couple of hours, to other individuals who have 24/7 care 2 to 1.
Sure.
So it's anything in between, really. So you could have, if you've got life skills, some people have got informal caring experience. We have as wide as the range of individuals looking for support is, the range of PAs are. So it's
And if someone thought that they might want to find out about becoming a personal assistant, a PA, What could they do? Could they come and talk to you? What would they do?
Yeah, there's some information on the PCVS website about personal assistance, but they can either call into PCVS office in Cromwell Road or ring in, and either reception or myself can talk to them. We have an application pack that can be sent out electronically or in the post that people can complete, and it tends to be now that we have a meeting either at that point, not a formal meeting, just an informal meeting to say a bit more background from them, and they can get a bit more information about what would be expected in the role, or they take the paperwork away and we talk about it when they bring it back, and that's worked very well because they get a bit more of an insight in what's involved, not just I fill it in and off it goes. And
right. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just looking at another area where you have done a project, it's about multidisciplinary team meetings with GP surgeries. And this is to represent the third sector and signpost people to alternatives to medical interventions where appropriate, such as befriending or benefit advice. My first thought here is, do GPs have time to attend these meetings rather than seeing their patients?
Over the time, I mean, again, it's a project that I've supported. I think because I've been at PCVS so long, I get called on to support. But it's very interesting and rewarding because it's evolved, and now it's very technical. And sometimes we have the doctors will call in rather than actually be there for the whole meeting. They have a time slot linked to a patient they may have put forward. But it's around preventing people accessing hospital when they don't need to, or accessing the doctors, because maybe everything that could medically be done has been done, but they keep they keep going back to the doctors for some reason, and it may just be loneliness. It may be that with befriending, they don't need to go to the doctor. So the doctors are quite a key in the centre of the community that you know about, that you can get to and you can go, that they're going to see you if you make an appointment, whereas where else do they go? And once they know there's other places out there, which is what our wellbeing service does. This sits within the wellbeing service. So as I say, as it's evolved, it's changed slightly with technology, that doctors can ring in and say why they've put that patient forward for that.
So it's actually, it might initially take the GP a little longer to be involved in this, but it's a benefit all round because their time is then released to deal with medical support of patients.
Yeah.
And the patients are helped better because they're finding people they can speak to who actually not only understand their particular needs but are able to give them practical help.
Yeah, and it may be that it's the main feature is to look for support that doesn't have a cost attached, because obviously that's an issue for a lot of people. But I know from colleagues in other organisations that they're quite keen that people perhaps have a benefit check, because it may be that they have to pay for a service and they're saying they can't afford that, but actually when they've had a benefit check and they're not on the right benefits, they've gained some income from a change in benefits, they can then afford to purchase what they need, if it's not available for free. So and see, as I say again, it links in with the direct payment, because there's some of the patients are on direct payments, so it's about direct them somewhere else, or if they can't find the support from a voluntary organisation that provides it free, there's other organisations where they have services, or we've got our PA register so they can access that to get the support that they require. But I think it's very interesting, because I think a lot of with the cases that come forward, it's not that they need medical help, they just they want something, they want some support and some inclusion really in what's going on. And so access and knowledge about the community groups that we have through community development is sort of vital. That it may be that you're direct to a large organisation like like Age UK, etc., the larger organisations that people know more about, but it may be that they're directed to a much smaller community group in their area that maybe is around a hobby, or the luncheon clubs,
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Now, more generally, if someone wants to find out more about volunteering, I've got a bit of time on my hands. How do I volunteer? What on earth should I do? Where can they go?
At the moment, yeah, as I say, they're welcome to come into PCVS. At the moment, we have the volunteer centre there, and they will give as much information and advice as possible. And we also direct people to the doit.org website, which has got voluntary positions and roles advertised on there that are available, and people can apply through that process. I mean, we're all very open. I think at PCVS we all wear lots of hats, so you might be talking about direct payments, to a client, but they might be then asking about volunteering, or it sort of switches between the different projects, so we can direct people into different places. So if we can't do it directly, then we will direct people in the right direction to take
So
it up.
if you're just a bit anxious about coming to visit and wondering if you're going to be roped into too much too soon, perhaps starting with the doit.org website, and that's a PCVS website, is it?
It's to do with, it's a volunteer centre, so National Volunteer Centre website.
The National Volunteer Centre website, yeah.
Under volunteer centres, so it sits under that, but it's got local roles on it, so that you can look up, and you can have a look and see what sort of thing is out there. But we can also direct people perhaps in organisations that we know of via conversations that go on with work that that organisation is looking for a volunteer. So there's always a little bit of like the PA's a bit of matchmaking going on.
And to turn it the other way round, if a organisation, maybe a charity or a voluntary body, needs volunteers, can they come through you to promote and advertise their vacancies?
The best thing is to contact the volunteer centre, so directly, again, via sort of the reception at PCVS, and come through. But they would put they could put their roles onto the doit.org website, so that people could see it and be and have that information there, or again, say, be directed to another organisation that may be able to provide that.
That's really good to know, and I've got one particular one in mind at the moment, because we've been working with the Scout Association to launch Cubs and Beavers at the Beaches School, and it started every Tuesday evening every week, but we do need more adults to come along and volunteer to fill in various roles, not to necessarily to be upfront leaders, and not necessarily to give every week, but what they can, and in the sorts of roles that they find suitable. So I'll certainly make a point of getting us promoted through that.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay. But is it difficult to volunteer? I mean, do you need qualification or training, and will you have security costs, and will you have to pay anything?
I think with volunteering, it's about what you as a volunteer or a potential volunteer want to do. It's not about it's about finding a good match, really. And each organisation is different, and it depends what they're looking for. So again, it can be from an hour. I mean, I've known of people that go into an organisation and just help make tea for an hour a week or something, but through to quite involved volunteering. There's volunteers that work, for example, at the Citizen Advice Bureau, so you do training, etc. So it really is important to know that have a chat with the volunteer centre about what you want to get out of it, really. But again, it's as broad as it's long. If you want to just volunteer an hour just to get out and about,
you can.
You can.
Right.
If you want to volunteer to get back into work, another of the projects we've had is the BBO employability, which is around getting individuals that have perhaps been out of the workforce for a long time back into volunteering, back into employment. But along that path is volunteering as one of the stepping stones, and they are there to help with any barriers that are in the way for people to do that. So
wonderful. So volunteering could be a stepping stone back into employed work.
Yeah.
Building the skills, building the confidence.
Yeah, definitely.
Faith Boys, thank you so much for coming, and I know it was at very short notice to come and speak about PCVS and volunteering and your wonderful experience down there for 9 years. 9 months turned into 9 years and still going. We're heading for a short break, so do stay tuned, as after the break, Community Matters will be returning to last week's topic in a way, and exploring remembrance, but it's the subject of Muslims in the armed forces, and we're going to be meeting a guest from the army and asking what is it like to be a British Muslim in the British armed forces.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
1 in every 10 people live without access to safe, clean water. Let's give them a better choice than drinking either dirty water or no water at all. Together, we can turn this desperate situation around by delivering safe water solutions to the world's poorest people. Call 0161 225 0225 or visit humanappeal.org.uk.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
Third world and developing countries are home to some of the most vulnerable children on the planet. Malnutrition, severe lack of medical aid and access to clean water are just some of the horrific challenges faced by orphans across Africa and Asia. Children of Adam, a Peterborough charity, need your help to bring aid to these orphans for just £25 a month. To sponsor an orphan or assist with other projects, please call 0300 321 0032 or visit www.childrenofadam.net.
Peterborough just got a whole lot tastier. Five Lads Flame Grilled Peri Peri Chicken is now open. Bring your family and friends to Peterborough's first HMC meat selling restaurant. We are experts in grilled chicken, lamb chops and gourmet lamb and beef burgers. Our healthy options include fresh salads and fresh grilled vegetables. Fresh, clean and healthy grilled food with 4 different flavours. Lemon and herb, medium, hot and extra hot. 5-star hygiene rating. Eat in, order and collect or order for delivery on Deliveroo. Follow 5 Lads Peterborough on Facebook and Instagram 5 Lads. 15 Cowgate, Peterborough, PE1 1LZ. Call 01733 56 22 87. Open 7 days a week, 12 to 11 p.m.
Almarad Tiles. With over 70 stores nationwide, we are now open in Peterborough. Up to 50% discount offers now on. Largest selection of tiles. Full bathroom suites from only £189. Paint, LED lighting, laminate flooring from only £7.99. Over 1,000 designs of wallpaper in stock. We have everything you need. Come and visit us at 193 Fengate, Peterborough, PE1 5BH. Or call us on 01733 34 58 47. Almarad Tiles, now open.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من سمت نجا. He who remains silent is successful.
If you have an idea for a show and want to get involved, email info@salamradio.co.uk.
Welcome back to Community Matters here on Salam Radio. This is Adrian Holdstock, and we're just getting ourselves settled again. Our guest is going to be available to us on the telephone rather than here in the studio, and I was looking round the studio to see if I could find him. Now, in last week's show, we were discussing remembrance. We talked about the fact that it was 100 years from the armistice when the fighting ended in the First World War. And during our investigations for our exhibition, Peace in Diversity, we became more and more aware of the incredible number of nationalities that were involved in World War I, including people of many faiths, including Islam. There were indeed many Muslims from around the world fighting in World War I, some say close to 1 million, with up to 100,000 killed, not forgetting Hindus, Sikhs, and I imagine also some Jews and Buddhists, as well as Christians and people of no faith. But tonight I want to focus on Muslims in the armed forces. My guest is Major Naveed Muhammad MBE, Chairman of the Armed Forces Muslim Association. Now let's just see if we've got him available on phone.
Adrian, good evening to you. How are you?
Hello. May I call you Naveed?
Please do.
Well, welcome. Thank you very much for giving up your time to come on our show. I gather you are far away in Scotland.
I am far away in Scotland, although getting closer to the south with every mile travelled, but still a few hundred miles away from home. But there we go.
Okay. Well, now I have had a little information of your biography. In January 2016, you became chair of the Armed Forces Muslim Association, or rather, because you were chair, you were awarded an MBE in the New Year's Honours List in recognition for, I quote, his exemplary service within the Army and strengthening positive relationships with minority communities around the country. Many congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
Did you go to Buckingham Palace for that MBE?
I did indeed, and it was a wonderful day. I had some family members with me, my father and my wife and my daughter. So it was a good day out, and might add a huge privilege. It was something that one doesn't expect, and I still remember the day in December. I think it was the 30th of December 2015 when my commanding officer rang me and gave me the news. I was painting the kitchen at the time, and I remember when I put the phone down, I carried on painting the same small bit of wall for about 2 or 3 minutes whilst the news sank in. So a huge privilege, and really honoured to have been given that recognition, along with many other colleagues.
Surely. How long have you been serving in the British Army?
Well, I joined the Army Reserve, as it is now, back in December 1987. So with a couple of weeks to go, I'll be hitting almost 31 years of service, of which the last approximately 11 years has been in a full-time role.
Well, we do share a little in common, because my first career, I was in the Royal Air Force as an engineer.
Brilliant.
And in 1987, I was promoted and posted to Germany as a squadron leader. So we have equivalent ranks.
We do. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah. Now, when you joined, what were conditions like for Muslims?
Well, if I may share one of my very, very earliest memories of training as a reservist on those days, I remember going into the kitchen as it was for my first lunch meal on day one of training, and there was no such thing as the variety that we see today. And I remember walking off with a plate of boiled potatoes because that was, frankly, all that was safe to eat for me as a Muslim who obviously couldn't eat all the other stuff. You fast forward that to 31 years later, where today, if you walk into a mess, a lot of dietary needs are catered for. Back 31 years ago, we didn't have an imam. We have an imam now. We have the Islamic advisor to the Chief of Defence Staff as well. Back 31 years ago, the Armed Forces Muslim Association, the Armed Forces Hindu Network, the Armed Forces Jewish Network, the Sikh Network, the LGBT networks. These very important employee support networks did not exist. And over the last 31 years, the armed forces have been on a journey. So the Royal Navy, the Army, and the Royal Air Force have been on a journey in terms of making the workplace more inclusive. And I and my colleagues, a lot of my colleagues have had the privilege to serve others, if I may put it that way, to try and make the workplace more accommodating, and we get a chance to influence policy even, at the highest levels. The policymakers actively engage with people of minority backgrounds, in officers and soldiers, and equivalent in the other services, and it really is a two-way process. Exchange of information, and all to make sure that we are doing the best we can to make reasonable adjustments in order to become a more inclusive employer.
It's a wonderful example, and I believe a wonderful model of inclusiveness, of diversity. If it can be done in the armed forces, it can be done in any organisation and employer in this country.
Of course, the armed forces are a complex organisation to work for, as I'm sure you'll agree. And we have specific challenges, perhaps, if I might put it that way, that may need overcoming. But it is an employer that, as I said, over the recent past, has taken many steps to do its utmost to become more accommodating. Because ultimately, we're trying to become more reflective of society. Quite rightly so. Not because it's the right thing to do, but also because it makes business sense. The demographics in the country are changing, and we need to make sure that we are an attractive employer of first choice to everyone. Any young man or woman from any background needs to be able to look into our organization and think, I can see how my needs, my specific needs, if I have any, might be catered for, and therefore I'm comfortable in making that. Sometimes it can be a bit of a daunting decision to join the armed forces.
I gather one of the policies you've been instrumental in developing is allowing Muslims to wear beards. Muslims, Muslim men and Sikh men have been able to keep beards for some time. That's right, yes. Yeah. There is very clear policy on that in terms of particularly those two faith groups are able to keep beards, the same as Sikhs can wear Sikh men can wear a turban. Muslim females, should they choose to, can wear a hijab. It's those simple things. None of those things would cause an issue. Going forward, if a Muslim man or a Sikh man was to deploy into a chemical or biological risk environment, then there is guidance on how what might need to happen to make sure that any personal protective equipment is effective. But certainly within the religious doctrine, to save life and to save your colleague's life comes
comes first anyway, so that wouldn't be an issue.
I think the point there is that you have to wear a face mask. We might generically call that a gas mask, and it needs to seal around the cheeks of your face and under your chin, and that's where the beard might get in the way.
That's right. But you know, you are able to keep a beard, but should there be a need, and that need would arise mostly in an environment where there is risk to your life, then you know, I'm sure there is. I have no doubt, having consulted with appropriate scholars, that you know, your beard can be adjusted to make sure that the respirator makes a good fit.
Smashing.
Yes.
What about Ramadan? Doesn't that detract from daily discipline of long runs and parades and fighting?
No, not at all. So Ramadan, you know, again, every year a policy is released which provides guidance not only to the chain of command but to the individual as well. Now, it also depends on where the individual is working. So if your working environment is deployed on operational deployment overseas, say, and it depends on what activities you are employed in, and that will then decide whether you're able to then fast. Because you can imagine if you're in an environment where you're exerting yourself, the body is under physical stress. You know, fasting perhaps for many hours a day, especially as Ramadan falls during the middle part of the year at the moment, might not be conducive to good health. Whereas if you are deployed overseas and you're working in an environment where I have been before and many of my colleagues have, where you're still involved in fairly arduous activity, but it's in a large base location where the provision is available for you to have your suhoor meal and your iftar meal, then there's no reason why you can't fast and observe Ramadan during operational deployments. Of course, when you're here in the UK at home, many Muslims are able to fast without any issue at all because routine duty, for example, sometimes the chain of command can make adjustments to your working day, so you could start a lot earlier and finish a lot earlier, so that you're at work for the minimum amount of time, and then you're at home or wherever else you may choose to be, so that you can observe Ramadan that way. So yeah, it's a bit of give and take, and again, we have the Islamic advisor and we have the Muslim chaplain who Muslim personnel can approach and seek appropriate religious advice. As can they approach the Armed Forces Muslim Association, who are also able to, you know, offer that mutual support.
And I gather there is what I've come to respect as a very reasonableness about one's responsibility to pray 5 times a day, depending on the circumstances. So I imagine, again, if you're on active service, you can't suddenly get out of the trench or from behind the barrier and pray, but you can make it up.
No, of course, and you know, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an imam, so appropriate advice is available given those circumstances. But again, my understanding of my faith is that, you know, it's not inflexible. You know, there is flexibility for when you're traveling, when you're involved in arduous activity, and those rulings have been made, in my opinion, exactly for the sort of situation that the armed forces or perhaps other organisations might find themselves in.
So I think anyone who is Muslim and considering joining, or has a family member who's thinking of joining the armed forces, they can be assured that their religious needs are taken care of as well as their physical needs.
Absolutely. You know, if you are a Muslim man or a Muslim lady, and you are thinking about enjoying a career in the armed forces, whether as a reservist or as a regular, you can be rest assured that the organization today is very accommodating. I must stress that, you know, it's an organisation that does require two-way give and take in terms of a bit of reasonable flexibility. You know, if you might find yourself deploy your exercise, which means that you might have to adjust your prayer times, if you like. But again, it's nothing that would be out of the ordinary for somebody from society who might be travelling a long distance.
Mm. Now, I remember when I joined up, it was 1974, and I graduated and then gone to RAF Cranwell. And the only chaplains that we met in those days were church chaplains, Christian chaplains. And they took the classes that we held on philosophy, and they introduced the term to us, a just war. The idea that there were certain principles that would allow a country to go to war, and that British values and political leaders would only decide to take us into war if it was really necessary to do so. How does Islam see the concept of a just war?
You know, again, I'm not a scholar, so forgive me. I'll give you my personal reflection on this, in the fact that Islam, like many other religions, faith, is not a pacifist religion. So, as a people, as a faith, you know, conflict is something that we refer to, and in terms of from a religious perspective, and we must also be mindful that the armed forces, certainly, you know, the British Armed Forces, I'm speaking on behalf of, do not make the decision to, you know, we don't get up in the morning and decide and point our finger on a map and say, right, today we're off to this particular place, or tomorrow we're going to go and, you know, go and operate in that particular place. The decision is made at the political level. And ultimately, it is the population of the United Kingdom, regardless of your background. If you are a British citizen of whatever race, culture, faith, belief, and you are age 18 and over, you have a democratic right to shape what the government of the day may or may not choose to have as part of its you know, view towards the wider world. And therefore, as the armed forces, we depend on the government to make that decision. Having said that, very much so, when members of the armed forces deploy in operations, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that whatever opportunity or whatever action we take is not only just, but it's justifiable. So if we were to engage a particular target, then that has to be justifiable. In this day and age, where you know, there is scrutiny on anyone and doing anything anywhere, whether you're walking on the street or, you know, you've got cameras, and if you're deploying operations, potentially you could be subject to being filmed. Regardless of that, so the mindset must always be that you uphold the armed forces' values and standards at all times, regardless of what you're involved in, so that you are just in your actions.
And does that mean then that Muslims are okay and Islam is okay about giving loyalty to generals and politicians who aren't Muslim?
Absolutely. You know, certainly from a military perspective, I look upon my seniors, as it were. I look upon those who are of a senior rank and those who are, you know, in positions of ultimate command, you know, your 2-star and 3-star and 4-star generals, to have that as part of their planning process, to make sure that they have taken everything into account before they then instruct the rest of their organization on how to operate. And in my experience, has been since I've been serving, that, you know, I've never come across a situation where I didn't feel that those senior to me were making a wrong decision. you know, and that's quite important, I think, because having deployed on operations to Bosnia in 1996 and then to Iraq and Afghanistan as well, you know, people that I've worked with have always done so, making sure that they always observe the highest standards when they're dealing not only with enemy combatants but also with population at large. You know, when you look at Bosnia and you look at the horrendous genocide that took place against Bosnian Muslims in the mid-1990s, having been back there at least 4 times now, it's always heartening to listen to Bosnian Muslims that we come across who talk about particular crimes that were committed against them, and how positively they then talk about their experiences of British soldiers deployed there on peacekeeping operations, who had to operate amongst very, very tight United Nations regulations at the time.
Now, last month it was announced that women will be allowed to apply for all types of roles in the British military for the first time, including frontline infantry units and the Royal Marines. And they could even put themselves forward for selection for specialist units, including the Specialist Air Service and the Special Boat Service. Are there Muslim women in our armed forces, and would you see them covering the whole range of types of work?
Indeed, there are Muslims serving in the Royal Navy, the Army, and the Royal Air Force. Unfortunately, they're not as many as the numbers don't reflect society as large, and that's why a lot of work that we're doing is about making sure that people have a better understanding of what we are as an organisation, so that you know, if you are a woman and if you're a Muslim or not, that you feel comfortable enough to be able to decide that yes, I would like to join this organisation. And the key thing about the announcement of certainly the key one for us, the Army opening up all its jobs to women, is the opportunity. For me, the key thing is that regardless of whether one, you know, we have different views from amongst society, but for us as an organisation, it's about fairness, and it's about making sure that we give opportunity, and that's the bottom line. Anyone should have the opportunity, or in our case, anyone now has an opportunity to do any job in the Army, and the case also applies to the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force.
That's tremendous news. I think in part it's not a matter of religion so much as a matter of culture, of how communities regard the different roles of men and women in life. But what I sense is happening in the armed forces is that you're offering the opportunity for equality.
Very much so. You know, society has been changing, and quite rightly, the armed forces also has had to change in any number of ways. And one of the things, quite rightly, that is happening in society is the sense of equality, regardless of gender, which I think is very important, and the armed forces is no different, is not immune from that. You know, why should we not give the opportunity to a woman who is fully capable of doing whatever her male colleagues are able to do? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that in my eyes, and in the eyes of my colleagues, and certainly, you know, in the eyes of the leadership.
My final question now. There are many young Muslim men and women in Peterborough who may still be thinking about the sort of working life they might pursue and what career they might follow. Is joining the armed forces a worthwhile career?
If I can answer it in the shortest possible way I can, is a big resounding yes. What I will, just to quantify that and put it into context, is the fact that we provide a range of careers which is similar to no other organization. We are able to provide, or rather should I say, the experiences in your job. You could be an engineer as a civilian, and have a particular set of experiences. You could be an engineer of some description, whether it be telecoms, whether it be in the construction industry, whether you could be an engineer in terms of the high-tech side of life, and you will get a totally unique and different life experience. On one day, you might be operating and protecting the country against violence and threats. On another day, you could be deployed to the other end of the world, which might have witnessed a human disaster and lives need to be saved. You could be going from war fighting to peacekeeping to humanitarian operations within months. There's no organization that will give you that level of fulfillment in your job, your daily life, if I call it that.
Well, that's wonderful, Naveed. We have come to the end of our time. Let me say an enormous thank you for joining us. Major Naveed Muhammad MBE, Chairman of the Armed Forces Muslim Association. We've come to the end of our time. Let's be a community that lives in peace and harmony. Salam and the peace of God to you all.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Isha Azan. This Azan